Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on data AI and autonomous networks in the telco industry. My name is Monica Hamilton. I'm VP of Nokia's Partner Relations, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. We have an exciting lineup with two esteemed speakers, Manisha Gupta from Google and Sandeep Sasakumar from Nokia. Let's start with brief introductions. Manisha, could you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Monica. Hi, everyone. I'm Manisha Gupta. I'm a group product manager at Google Cloud, and I lead the cloud networking product strategy for focusing on the telecom industry. And as part of my role, I drive 5G services like Packet Core from Nokia and Google Cloud, and how operators can leverage AI to deliver autonomous network operations for these networks. And I'm excited to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts and insights on what we are working on, especially our partnership on autonomous network operations.
Thank you, Manisha. Sandeep, now over to you.
Hey, hi, Monica. So nice to meet you all. And hi, Manisha. Great to see you again. So I'm Sandeep. I work for Nokia, lead the autonomous networks and AI sales globally for Nokia. In my job, I work deeply with operators, trying to innovate the networks, think how the future is going to evolve and help them adapt to it. I love my job, and this is what Nokia does best.
Well, thank you both, and welcome to the webinar. And to those joining, please know you can always drop your questions in chat. We'll do our best to answer those during the Q&A section that follows our discussion. Now let's get started. Let's dive into our first topic, autonomous networks and why quality data and analytics matter. We know CSPs are on a journey towards autonomous networks, but we have some hurdles still in the way. Sandeep, can you open this topic a bit and tell us why data matters so much for autonomous networks?
Yeah, so when you talk about autonomous networks, you have different levels of autonomy, right? So level 1 is where you don't have anything, and level 5 is where you have achieved complete autonomy and systems are making their own decisions, self-optimizing, configuring the networks and take decisions of their own, even evolving to a certain extent. So all of these decisions are being made on data, right? And data, as you know, is it's like water, right? If it's polluted, then it's not going to have a good result on your body. So same way with data. If the data is not clean, it is not available to be used directly. It's gone through the wrong chain of custody, so to speak. Then the decisions that are going to come out of it are not going to be great. And for an operator, especially operating a critical infrastructure like telecom, with decisions that have life implications on people's lives and businesses, those are the kind of risks that they cannot take, right? So the data foundation on which we work has got to be very, very clear. What does that mean? So that basically means that data cannot be touched at any point between the origination of the data and the consumption of the data by an AI model or an AI agent, by a human. In the process, a human cannot get in between, right? You can do transformations, correlations, etc., but in between, you cannot let anybody touch the data because we cannot avoid getting that polluted, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is that when you go towards autonomous networks, right? So you have the big task of creating a lot of automation, a lot of engineering to actually make networks autonomous. And for that, you will need to engage a community around you. Now, the community does not understand telco lingo, right? So telco language is only available to the network and what it does and how we do it and the configurations and etc. It's available to telco domain experts like us, but not to the outside community. But the AI community needs to be engaged to create that. So for that, you need to create a common language, right? So I would like to refer it to like the Google Translate of the network industry. That's what we are trying to do with our artificial network or with our autonomous networks data suite, right? So we translate that to a common language, which is clear across multiple vendors, multiple domains, all of that, so that you have AI experts coming from outside with their own technology, right? Google, Microsoft, whoever else is there, right? And tool makers, they would come back together. Also communities, developer communities would come together and start co-innovating in this space along with the operator. So for that, the data foundation needs to be really solid. We need the telco domain experts like us to make the language common so that everyone can come and build their own use cases on top of that. And then we walk towards automation together or autonomous networks together.
Thank you, Sandeep. That was a great explanation. Manisha, what is your perspective on building that foundation to enable AI for autonomous networks?
Yeah, so Monica, let me start with saying that, I absolutely agree with Sandeep. A robust data foundation is critical for any telecom operator to realize the benefits of autonomous operations, right? Your AI models are only good as the data they get trained on. And building this foundation, it's not just about having the right product. You need a comprehensive approach. You want to build that unified data fabric that can, drive you towards that true AI-driven autonomy that Sandeep just talked about. So as you already know, right, like telecom networks, they generate an incredible amount of data from network telemetry, RAN telemetry, their BSS, OSS logs, customer experience probes, and so much more. And then you have so much of data in element managers, your service ticketing systems, and so on that provide so much context for that network. So first, the data quality and integrity, that's super important. And I think Sandeep touched on that. For telecom networks, you need to structure this vast amounts of data, this real-time telemetry, patch updates, operational logs, config data. You have data from so many sources. You have to do it accurately. You have to do it consistently. And you have to do it quickly. And you have to bring all of that into a very structured data schema. And that's where the domain expertise that vendors like Nokia are bringing to the table, as Sandeep talked about. You guys really know your network, right? And then once you have those data models, you have to ingest this data. And a lot of our operators, as you know, are operating multi-vendor networks. And this is one area where, I'll take the example of what Nokia has done, in terms of supporting multi-vendor data to be able to bring all of that data, ingest all of that data from any element in your network into one place. Now, at Google, we do not build telco-specific applications. And that's where, we rely on our partnerships and, the telcos themselves who have decades of experience, in working in this domain. So our strategy is to empower our ISV ecosystem. And, in addition to that, we also are exposing the power of large language models or LLMs that make these data schemas a lot more extensible. So, operators can continuously enhance their elements as new elements are discovered in their environment, new counters, new metrics are exposed in their environment. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is you need a very scalable and you need a highly performant data platform to bring all of this data, process like these petabytes of data for the various outcomes that you see that operators are looking to drive towards. And if you talk to any telecom operator, you will hear that data silos are a huge problem for them. It prevents their ability to get a full comprehensive view of their network. Maintaining data consistency across all of these silos is, talked about as one of the hardest problems that network operations are trying to solve for. And obviously it is cost efficient because you're kind of creating those copies of the same data at so many different places and trying to do something with that, right? And that's where, Google comes in with our native infrastructure for data ingestion with our services like PubSub, DataProc. These are truly differentiated. These are highly performant. They can scale to that petabytes of data coming at a very, very high frequency, right? And supporting like the largest operators across the world. And our services, they're also very tightly integrated. So ingest your data once into our data warehouse services like BigQuery or a graph database like Spanner, and you can use it everywhere for any of your use cases. And plus you get inbuilt data governance. So Sandeep touched upon data governance, very, very important because you want to know like what policies you are configuring for data management, your management access, your security, your compliance, and most importantly, ensuring the data lineage, traceability, and the transparency of that data. And lastly, you need to make this data available to your AI platform. So you need some level of integration with your AI platform so you can very quickly and easily use this data for training and inference. And our approach in that space is to democratize the AI development with our Vertex AI platform. So what does that mean for the telcos? For data scientists, you can build and train sophisticated custom models like, say, predictive maintenance or traffic forecasting. For network engineers, it means that you can now use auto ML tools with minimal coding, and you can create models, say, to do root cause analysis, anomaly detection. And for network operations, you can turn on that closed loop assurance, and you can trigger automated remediation workflows. So what you really have is, you have a single platform that manages the entire life cycle from data preparation to model deployment and monitoring, and you're making your AI scalable and repeatable.
Well, thank you both. It sounds like there's still some work to do. How should CSPs create this data quality foundation? Sandeep, could you share Nokia's approach and give some examples of our customers who are grappling with this challenge?
Yeah, so I think it's a very important point, right? So how data is managed is very critical. So I'll try to kind of go through the whole process, right? So uh, I believe the data should be captured at the origin, right? So typically there is this tendency to collect data from different places and dump it into a place, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with it, right? So instead of that, we should have a clear way of actually capturing, utilizing, federating data, and then finally using it. So what that means is the data collected at the origin, and then the pipelines of data that are required thereafter to translate the data into usable form, whether it's KPIs, whether it's predictions, whether it's just correlating amongst different domains, right? They should all be built out and pre-configured so that this data can go through the transformation process and then land into something that's usable. So there are two ways to do this, right? So one is to basically do this ad hoc, right, which I would not recommend. Always you need to start at somewhere and you know what kind of use cases you have, so you build towards that, right? So it's good to actually build a set of pipelines which gets you very close to where you want to get. What does that mean? It means that you have multi-vendor data, change that all into a common format so that you can actually make sense between the calls originating from one radio network and another. You should correlate it across domains, across RAN and core, so that or transport for that matter. So whenever there is a fault that occurs, you can actually go in and pinpoint where exactly that fault happened and why it happened and what was the experience the customer had because of that fault. Or what is that network equipment going to do next because of what we see in the signals, right? So that multi-domain correlation is absolutely crucial, right? So those kind of things we can actually build those pipelines out on the data as it comes in. Then it's a question of where do you land this data, right? I would believe that data should stay decentralized, because centralization is a dream that is never fully matured or never fully achieved ever, right? So we always try to centralize, and then we realize there are copies of data that exist in other places, right? So data should be maintained, collected at origin, maintained by the experts of that domain. So if I'm collecting RAN domain data, let the RAN domain experts maintain the data. They know the formats that are coming in. They know the transformations that are required. They know how to convert that network knowledge or network APIs into business terminology so that outside experts can understand what is being done here, right? So let them maintain that, and then you virtually federate it, right? So whenever a person needs data for a use case and they go into a catalog, they look it up, and then they can grab the data. They can see what the explanation is, what they need for the use cases. Here's a place where we can wrap a Gen AI engine like Gemini, etc., to kind of suggest like, hey, if you're trying to build this use case, like for instance, a churn use case, these are the kind of things that you want to look for, right? And then it goes and grabs those things from the catalog, you bring it and build your use case. Now, if you understand throughout this process, no human has touched the data, right? So your decision is likely to be very good. So if I summarize, that's pretty much what we call a data mesh architecture, and we have implemented that for in our autonomous networks data suite, right? So we are offering customers on day one a set of data products. We call them products because they're finished, right? So they're finished and ready to be used, which are wrapped in proper governance, proper lineage, proper data quality metrics, all of that, so that you can track what is the product that you're getting. Just like you have a place of manufacture and everything and date and expiry on a product, you have this whole thing defined. It's an end-to-end contract from the beginning of the collection of the data to the consumption, right? And you can see who's using it, where they're using it, etc. So you take that data product and then you create your use cases. The outcome is going to be good. right? Because that's you're relying on really high quality ingredients, right? So when we built the data suite, we came on board with basically all the knowledge, all the domain knowledge we had collected over the years, working across multiple domains, across multiple companies that formed together to create Nokia, across all of our applications, and brought into data suite to give high quality data on which operators can create their own use cases or have third party come in, collaborate and create their own use cases very, very, very quickly, right? So we take the friction off from the whole process of creating a use case, which generally takes about 8 to 9 months to down to maybe a couple of months or less, so that the whole data part, which was the bulk of that process of cleaning and preparation, etc., goes away, right? So that's one big thing that we have done. So we have wrapped it into the to the ANF, which is basically our autonomous network fabric, which is a set of services that an operator can take and start building their autonomous networks on. Right, here's where we are partnered with Google on their ANO, so that we can take their tools as well, wrap it into a fabric, and then we can go deploy anywhere, like what Manish explained, right? Go deploy anywhere, achieve the scalability that the operators want to achieve. I use the best-in-class AI tools, because operators are not going to create the best-in-class AI tools, neither are Nokia, right? So we're going to rely on partners like Google to bring in the best-in-class AI tools, and we'll bring all the innovation there. So we use that to create the best-in-class automation going forward. So it's very, very critical in our strategy to work with partners like Google, and we are happy to see how well our solutions are scaling with Vertex AI, with BigQuery, with Gemini, and the kind of impact customers are able to make.
Understood. So CSPs need a data solution that can truly scale for their AI needs. And our partnership for combining telco data with Google's capabilities makes sense. Manisha, could you tell us a little bit more about the partnership from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely, Monica. First of all, we are very excited about this partnership, and as Sandeep mentioned, Nokia really brings that domain expertise, and we bring the most robust, most scalable cloud platform, that provides the elasticity, scale, and performance that the operators are looking about. Right. So we talked a lot about data silos, and I think we all understand how this traditional approach is so inefficient, right? And there are teams that are spending majority of their time just finding and preparing that data, and they are doing this repeatedly in different parts of their organization. So I think what Sandeep alluded to in terms of the domain experts manage the most consistent single copy of that data, and everybody basically uses that same set of data to drive towards their own outcomes. I think that's really the approach that we are taking as well. And if you think about it, we're really flipping that traditional model head on, right? We are going towards a unified telco-centric data model that you create once, your single source of truth, and then you can serve multiple use cases out of it. Now, coming to our partnership with Nokia specifically on the AN Data Suite service, which is running in Google Cloud, it's precisely about that. It's about collaborating to deliver a quality data foundation for the telecom operators in 3 easy steps. Number one, being able to ingest that data at scale with the elasticity and the scalability that Google Cloud provides. And we can solve that raw data ingestion problem, right? We can pull in data from any part of your network, structured, unstructured, streaming, and you can bring that into a centralized lakehouse architecture. Google Cloud Storage, BigQuery. These are some services that operators are using, as well as we are leveraging for the AN suite as well. And this is how you start with, trying to break down those silos and creating that one place for all your data to live securely, and most importantly, most cost effectively. The second is, which in my mind is a very, very important step, is contextualizing that data. See, raw data in itself doesn't mean much. So think of a data that tells you these are all your cell sites and these are the performance counters. So what do you do with that, right? And this is where I think our partnership with Nokia on the data suite is very crucial, because it provides that critical intelligence layer. It runs on top of that data that's sitting in BigQuery, and it applies Nokia's deep expertise in the telco domain. So, in order to understand complex relationships, for example, between a subscriber, a device, a cell tower, and a 5G network slice, You can clean, you can correlate, and you can enrich that raw data, and you can transform that into a unified data model, which reflects the state of your network very, very accurately. And finally, it's about how we serve and how we innovate together. Once you have that high quality contextualized data model that's sitting in BigQuery, if you think about it, the possibilities are endless, right? You put in the effort of building this foundation once, and then your teams are really focused on how do you tap into the various use cases, taking advantage of this data. So think of use cases like network assurance. You build an AI application, you can query the model to predict network degradation before it impacts your customers. You think about customer experience. Your marketing teams can now use the same data model to understand network quality that's impacting high value customers. And how do you proactively prevent churn? You think about energy savings. You can now identify underutilized parts of your RAN network to power down during off-peak hours and save significant and gain significant energy savings. You think about monetization. Your business teams can now use that same data model to create analytic services for your enterprise customers and provide insights into how you can expand your wallet share, what kind of new services you can attach to existing customers, and so much more. Right? And with this partnership, what we are offering as Google, we are offering the unlimited scale and the performance of a very secure cloud data infrastructure, which is Google Cloud, and the telecom domain intelligence from Nokia to deliver, this unified data model from Google. The result is operators, they can move from their slow reactive data engineering processes to a rapid, more proactive line of innovation.
Okay. Well, moving on to our next question. Now that we've talked about setting the data foundation and we're ready to use it, let's explore AI use cases to solve business challenges. Manisha, could you provide some examples?
Yeah, we have so many examples of how operators are already taking advantage of this robust data fabric on BigQuery, and move from AI that just predicts to what we call as the agentic AI that acts. Right? Let me share 3 examples for you, and I'll frame it as a simple before and after. Right? Network energy savings. So as you know, sustainability goals are top of mind for most network operators, right? So what were they doing before? They were doing predictive AI. They would use AI to generate a report that says, oh, you can probably save energy in this sector tonight, and you need an engineer to do this, this, and this, right? So you need to go and manually make the change once you have that insight. With agentic AI, you provide your intent, save energy, but meet these SLAs at all times, which means that I want to save energy, but not at the cost of customer experience. And now you have a system that is continuously monitoring your network, and it acts on its own, powering the equipment up and down in real time without any human intervention. I'll share a second example, customer experience. So reducing churn rate, one of the top goals for most operators, right? So how are they doing it before they adopted agentic AI? You would use AI to generate an alarm, flag that a customer is having an experience issue, and this customer is at a risk of churn. And this alert would go and sit in a queue, waiting for a human to take action, and that customer might have already churned. With agentic AI, you would detect that bad experience in real time, run diagnostics, and often fix the root cause of that issue, right? Like you would reroute their traffic, or you would adjust other parameters, everything in real time. So, the probability of that customer churning reduces drastically because of agentic AI. And lastly, like the third example I would like to share is around network monetization. So I talked briefly about it. Most operators are dealing with shrinking revenue, and they're looking for ways to expand it. So how can AI help with that, right? So with AI today, what it can do for you is offer a premium service, a recommendation on a premium service that is based on statistical forecasts, right? And then from that point onwards, it's a manual sales effort and engineering effort to make it happen. With agentic AI, now you have AI as your service concierge. So a customer can request a guaranteed slice of the network via your online portal. The AI agent quotes the price. It builds the custom service on demand. It guarantees the performance, and it tears down the service when the customer churns or the customer leaves your service, right? And it handles this entire transactional on its own autonomously.
Thank you, Manisha. Those are some very interesting examples. Sandeep, how about you give us some of your insight into some great examples of how AI use cases solve business challenges?
Yeah, so look, we've been working with customers since when our networks were there on identifying where the customer issues were and how do we solve them, etc. And as Manisha said, the technologies have evolved, right? We talked about monetization was one example she brought up, and that's where you can actually go ahead and create the intent of the service that you want to create, want to have, and then have an agent go out and check if your network can service it or not, right? So previously, manually, it used to be a process where a requirement would be gathered probably on paper, probably digitally, and then you have someone go and check it with the various departments on, can we do this service, can we not? And then it goes through a whole CPQ process, and then you come back and then you say, yes, we have the resources to do that. This is how much it's going to cost. So this is not something that you can serve an immediate business need. Like if you give an example, right? So let's say, in future, we're going to have a lot of autonomous cars on the road, or you already have a lot of cars running on software, which is coming over the cloud, right? So if there is a serious security vulnerability that has been discovered and that needs to be fixed in the next 5 minutes, right? And then imagine the amount of load that will be required on the network, the capability that will be required, and the SLAs that will be required to actually do that very, very quickly, especially when all these calls are running and things are happening, etc. Right? So you cannot go through the process like in the previous times, right? So you need something wherein you can put in a request and say, this is what I need, right? And then and the network is looking into the network and then seeing if that's possible to be done at this point in time. If so, the service is created, assured, the quality that you're expecting is there, and then you go ahead and deliver the service, right? And once it's done, probably 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you roll back the service, right? In the meanwhile, because of the urgency, there is a significant revenue potential also for the telco here, because of the need that was serviced at that point in time. So this is kind of touches upon multiple aspects here. So when you're trying to roll out a service like that, it's about monetization, which is one part of it, right? But then it's also about assurance, right? How to assure the quality of the network. It's also about understanding what is the experience of that UE. Which is there, which is basically getting the service going to it from the manufacturer, right? So it's the end-to-end visibility of what is happening in the network. So if you take that, for us, that means that when it comes to customers, it's about churn prediction, churn management, etc., based on service experience. When it comes to network equipment, that's about predictive maintenance, understanding what issues are happening in the network and how do we get ahead of it and start solving them. It's about energy savings, as Manisha touched upon, right? To understand how to save costs, because the costs are going up for the operator. The revenues are kind of going up a little bit on the enterprise side, but the customer side is still stagnant, right? So you have to find a way to kind of do things and deliver better quality and and more expectations rather at reasonably okay cost, right? So which means bringing down the cost to what is manageable, so that the margins can be maintained going forward, because investments are not coming down. So you definitely need your margins to continue investing in the network. So I would say that for us as Nokia, we are engaged across the value chain, whether it's on the maintenance side, on the equipment side, whether it's on the customer experience side, whether it's on monetization side, across the value chain, we are involved and working with customers very, very closely.
Well, thank you, Sandeep. Great insights. Let's shift a little bit from the theoretical to the practical. Let's look at a real world example, such as Telefonica Germany's use of AI for energy efficiency. Sandeep, could you elaborate on this use case a little bit?
Yeah. So Telefonica Germany is a large operation of ours, where we are looking into what customers are doing with their phones, with their networks, and also understanding what are the usage patterns, the traffic patterns across the different areas in which Telefonica Germany operates. And then we're trying to find out what is the effective and the most efficient radio footprint that we can maintain in such a way that it saves the operator the costs of running the network. All right. So that means that looking at areas and looking at resources that are underutilized, powering them down, like Manisha said, and being sensitive to requirements of SLAs towards certain enterprise customers, understanding seasonal changes, even within a day, changes in traffic patterns and being prepared for that so that networks are not caught sleeping when the customers actually need the networks, right? So, which goes the other way of why the infrastructure is there in the first place. So we use a combination of agentic AI agents, ML models, etc., to design that experience, which allows customers to have a consistent experience with the network while the operators are able to save significant costs on their energy that they spend for the RAN networks as well as for the passive networks.
Manisha, do you have any thoughts on this particular use case?
Yeah, so Monica, what you see here, it's a great example of one of the leading operators leveraging AI solutions for achieving their sustainability goals, both from a compliance perspective as well as from a cost optimization perspective, right? And it's not just about predicting the network traffic accurately. So they are infusing their network data that's anonymized with opt-in insights from the Android ecosystem, as Sandeep mentioned, and the operator is able to transition from prediction to true insight, which is basically like the power of agentic AI that we are talking about. So to maximize their energy savings, guaranteeing customer experience, and that's really the difference between making an educated guess on what your users might need versus actually knowing what they need. Right? And ultimately, that's the future that we are building together. A network that doesn't just respond to its users' needs, but it truly perceives, anticipates, and it takes action.
Well, I could talk about this all day long. It's a very interesting, broad, compelling topic. We are at the end of our webinar, and I'd like to open the floor for any final comments. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to talk about?
I think it would be a shame if I left this floor without talking about, and I love talking about this, where my perspective on how the future is going to evolve, right? Today we are seeing generative text, we're seeing generative images, and I think that we're very, very, very close, if not already there, to generative applications, right? Where users specify their intent of what they want their applications to do, and applications evolve to actually service that intent, right? What that means is probably capabilities demanded of the network, which the network even did not anticipate is going to have, right? Which means immediately on the fly, you need to understand what is the network resource requirement, what is the scalability potential of this application, and then start making decisions on the fly behind the scenes to start preparing for that. It's not probably there yet, but I think in a few years, we're talking about AGI already. I think we're going to get there, right? So this is the time to actually absolutely solve the data problem once and for all, because we do not solve that, we're not getting anywhere. This wagon's not going anywhere without that horse, right? So that's pretty much what I wanted to say, and say that, look, people think that you can wait and watch and see how things are going, right? And that's a comment I often hear. And I will not quote who I said this to, but I will just say this, right? When the tsunami is coming, you did not stand on the shore and say, hey, I'm going to take my own sweet time, gather up my beach towels, everything, pack up and figure out when I want to go back, right? You've got to take action right that second. That's what the AI economy is. This economy is going to change all our lives, right? But we need to take action now. This is a race. This is a race for the operators, right? Because as I said, the margins are shrinking, the costs are going up, the revenues are stagnant. But this is a great opportunity for us to go and create immense value out there. The risk is that otherwise we get changed into a pipeline, and then there's an automating layer that comes and sits on top and does that, because this is happening with or without us, right? So this is the right time to invest. This is the right time to get your data up to speed and then start building the ecosystem that will actually come together to make autonomous networks happen. And that includes people like us who are traditional telco vendors in this space, who understand the data, who understand the technology, who understand the requirements, who understand how to help networks scale, and AI vendors who know how to bring in the best technology, the scalability, all of that to make it happen. But it also requires an army of developers, which we need to bring towards us. It requires third-party ISVs we need to bring to us into this journey. So I believe this is a call to action. I would put out that call to action and say, first step is data, next step is ecosystem. Let's go right now.
Manisha, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I echo what Sandeep said, and I feel like we're just kind of scratching the surface with the work that we are doing on autonomous network operations, and obviously, like having that data foundation built right is the first step. And this is where I think one of the areas we are focusing very closely in, as working with our ISV partners, with our strategic telecom partners, in innovating in this space. This is going to be a long road. It's going to be a long journey to drive to from level 2, level 3, where most of the operators are sitting today, to a full autonomy, which is level 5. But we're excited about it. Google is all about innovation. AI is our most differentiated asset, and we are continuing to innovate and partnering closely with the likes of Nokia, and we are excited about being on this journey together.
Well, thank you both for your valuable insights and sharing your knowledge with us. As we wrap up, let's take a sneak peek at what's coming at TM Forum's Innovate Americas event in a couple of weeks. Sandeep, can you tell us anything about what we can expect?
Yeah, what you can expect from us is basically a whole host of AI applications that you can come in and immerse yourself into and discover how that's going to change the networks and how that's going to change life for customers. You're going to have a sneak peek into some of what we're building, what I alluded to earlier as the autonomous network fabric, and what kind of applications we can build on top of that. So do visit our booth, and I guarantee you that you will find an opportunity to touch some hands-on demo stuff, and then figure out how you want to utilize that in your networks to make things go the way we actually just started out.
Well, thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Manisha, for joining us today. We appreciate your insights and look forward to seeing everyone at Innovate America's event. That is happening in the US, September 10th and 11th. For those listening, please feel free to submit your questions in the QA box if you haven't already. And you'll see a QR code that you will take a snapshot of to get a quick survey about your experience today. We'd love to hear your comments and get your feedback. Thank you again for joining Nokia and Google Cloud today.
So in my mind, automation, both from experience, from delivery, from growth, is very important.
As digital interactions increase and fraud prevention APIs are going to become very valuable.
AI and complementary technologies are going to continue to gain steam, and they're going to move closer to the edge where they'll meet the private 5G platform technologies.